making his return to the floor tonight against Boston. That was a report from ESPN. Antetokounmpo has missed 5 weeks with a calf strain. Second time he's missed an extended stretch of games this year with the injury. Milwaukee could certainly use him. Last 2 times they've been on the floor, they've gotten blown out. First came on Friday by the Knicks. Second time came last night against the Bulls. You can count Bobby Portis among those happy they played the Celtics tonight.
I wish we would have got the win tonight, but I think the biggest thing for us is we don't have to sit around and not play a game. We get right back to it, so we get a chance to correct it and move forward.
Milwaukee now 3 games back of Charlotte for the final spot in the play-in tournament. Turning to the Badgers, they got back on the floor for practice today after their long week out west saw them go 1-1, lose out the home portion of their schedule on Wednesday against Maryland, and then go to Purdue on Saturday. As it stands, they're likely to be the number 6 seed in the Big Ten tournament next week in Chicago. That would have them playing on Thursday night.
At a time when children are in crisis, the Kids Mental Health Foundation envisions a future where mental health is a vital part of growing up. And support starts with all of us. At home, at school, at practice, everywhere kids are. The Kids Mental Health Foundation is the leading organization promoting mental health for children in the U.S. and has free tools and information developed by experts.
Having those resources is the same as the CPR class to me. We're trying to save a life here.
Check out kidsmentalhealthfoundation.org to get started.
Well, the NFL Combine is in the books, and now the focus turns to free agency. The new league year begins next Wednesday, and teams can start talking with free agents next Monday. Teams must also be under the salary cap by next Wednesday, meaning the Packers will need to make some moves here in the next week to get under it. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil-Print.
Yeah. Again, losing him is tough just because of what he brought to our football team. But I think there were just other opportunities that he wanted to pursue. He's coached a long time in the National Football League, and as you know, it can be a grind. And I think he had some other opportunities that he was looking at. Really good coach, and wherever he ends up, that place is going to be better for it.
A number of our games the past couple of years, we've been up in the games and just not been able to close them out. And our group's we got to get to that point. I think we're on our way there. I really like the guys in our locker room. That's an area that we have to fix.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
2 pieces of sound from last week. That's Brian Gutekunst at the Combine, met with the media. A transactional comment about the departure of Rich Bisaccia, which I think is important. We'll talk about that tonight. Talked about it a little bit last week, but we can spend a little bit more time on it tonight. Take your phone calls as we're back in studio, and just kind of that bigger picture comment from Gutekunst that I think is probably going to get replayed on this show a lot over the course of the offseason about situational, crunch time, fourth quarter, we got to be better. And Goody in that soundbite saying, I think we're on our way. We got the right guys. We got the right coaches. And as we discussed last week at the Combine with Nagler and Renner and Clemens, will also be a theme throughout this offseason. I'm not convinced. I wouldn't say like I would slam the door on them ever figuring it out with this group. And I'm not saying that I hate the coach and that I hate the players. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm with Goody on that. So 2 pieces of sound from the Combine last week. My name is Grant Bills, the Wisco Sports Show. We're back from Indy. I was also in Wisconsin Dells this weekend, which was very fun. I was at the Kalahari. Used to go there a lot as a kid because my mom would have work events there. She'd have a work conference every year. So the kids we'd get to go, and my dad would go, take us around the water park. So every couple of years, let's do some water slides. Let's be whimsical. And I posted some pictures. I got to say, some of you disappoint me. Oh, that place sucks. Oh, that place is great. I think it's a little bit of a character flaw if you can't enjoy the Wisconsin Dells. Something in that town for everybody. So if you're by the way, if you're in my Twitter mentions at Wisco Grant, if you're somebody that feels as though they are above the Wisconsin Dells, I'm not saying that you're a bad person. I'm not saying that we don't see eye to eye, but I have questions. That's all. So back in Madison, our flagship station, our studio here at WOZN, The Zone in Madison. I'll take your phone calls as we're back in studio, and I can do that. And I'm very excited for that tonight. So 608-321-1670 if you want to jump in at any point. The live stream up and running as well. It starts on the Wisco Sports Zone app, all the different platforms where that thing streams. If you want to watch along and comment throughout the show as well. Very, very, very insightful week in Indianapolis down at the NFL Combine. First time in that city. I always just enjoy an opportunity to go to a new city. lift up some fog of war, say I've been to this place or that place, whether it's a tiny town in Wisconsin or a metropolitan center like Indianapolis. It's not that big, but it's a big city. I've never been there before, so that was fun. Great tidbits throughout the week from coaches and players. It was fun to go to some of the podium, the media avails, and some media scrums, and also some great guests on both of our shows. More guests on Bill's show. He's got a 4-hour show, so there's just more space. But Thursday was one of my favorite shows in forever. This show on Thursday, we had 2 segments with Mike Renner, Aaron Nagler, which is a rare treat, Cody Stutz, Cody's been on the show a bunch. I was just excited to get him on because he's a friend of show. I didn't really have anything too specific in mind to discuss with him, but he started for you draft nerds. I mean, that segment was a goldmine because he gave you a couple corners, couple D linemen, right? A couple of centers or interior O linemen to talk about, some bigger picture thoughts on the league. So that segment was just great. I can't recommend going back and getting the podcast or rewatching the live stream of Thursday's show enough. And I know it's cliche to say this. I almost hate myself for saying this because everyone says this, but it's true. So I got to say it. The best stuff, the best conversations are the ones that don't happen on the air. They're the conversations that happen at the hotel bars, at St. Elmo's, at the JW Marriott. And again, it's cliche and I hate myself for saying it, but it is true. That's where I heard some of the best stuff. First of all, I love hotel bars. Just let me say, I think hotel bars are great. It's not a Wisconsin dive bar, which is obviously clearly my favorite type of bar. Supper club bar, also very high up there, but a hotel bar is, I mean, it's spiritually like the cantina in Star Wars. Just look at all these different people from different places, and we're all waiting for someone or something. We're here on business, and where are we going to, let's go to the bar. And you look around and you're like, all these different people from all these different places. So some of those conversations and, seeing some people who've been on the show or on Bill's show, just kind of connecting and having conversations in Indianapolis when the NFL is centered there was very cool. And I don't think I had an earth-shattering conversation or an earth-shattering realization about the Packers. Like, I didn't have a moment like Hank in Breaking Bad in the bathroom. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I just heard that. It changes my worldview on everything. But more so just a slow trickle throughout the week of different conversations with folks and little comments here and there and just little things. I come out of last week feeling like the Packers feel really far away. That's what I've been thinking about since getting back Friday. Having guests on the show, those conversations you heard, yep, and those conversations that Brian Gutekunst had with the media, and I brought a little bit of that audio to you on the show, and certain draft prospects too. That was cool. Got to chat with Mason Reiger, but again, mostly the conversations that happened after hours over a cocktail at St. Elmo's. You ever been to St. Elmo's? They have shrimp cocktail. The conversations, those places. I come away from last week feeling like the Packers feel really far away from being a Super Bowl team. Not from being a good team. They're already a good team. I'm not telling you they stink. It's not that they don't have the talent. I think they're in the top 25%. They might be in the top 5 to top 10 of teams in the NFL in talent. There are not many quarterbacks better than Jordan Love. I don't think he's perfect, but I think he's a lot better than a lot of you folks think. They have maybe the best edge rusher in football, not named Myles Garrett. I love their tight end. I love their group of wide receivers. When Christian Watson's healthy, when he's not healthy, it changes things a little bit, but I like that group a lot. I like their ability to build an O-line, although they took a step back there last year. Edgerrin Cooper's a young player I love. Evan Williams is a young player I love. Wyatt, if he's ever healthy, is a player I love. Like, I like their talent. I don't think they're a dozen players away from being a Super Bowl team. I'm struggling to believe in coaching staff, organization, organizational mantra, leadership, all encompassing. If you're watching on the live stream, I'm gesture maxing because it's not just Matt LaFleur, it's the whole thing. It's not just Brian Gutekunst's dread policy, it's the whole thing. It's not just Jordan Love, he needs to be a better leader. No, it's the whole, it's the leadership, all encompassing from top to bottom in the organization. Winning a championship, winning a Super Bowl, it's a lot more than just, well, you got a good quarterback, good play caller. Well, trade for the elite edge rusher. There you go. I mean, Jordan Love's turning 27. That's when it happens, right? It'll probably just win a Super Bowl this year. It's a lot harder than that. Coordinators, position coaches, facilities. I'll give you an example of something that we talked about last week and that I've been thinking about ever since. Aaron Nagler, who was on the show, Cheesehead TV, had a great scoop from the player grades that the NFLPA does. They're less publicly available now. Kalen Kaler of ESPN had all the grades, but Nagler had some more specifics. The Green Bay Packers fell 14 spots from 21st or to 21st. Overall, in this year's report card, the steepest year-over decline of any team. The drop is driven largely by the decline in ratings for the training room and training staff, which now rank in the bottom third of the league. Players report a lack of space and outdated recovery equipment, along with the lack of communication and trust in the training room. These issues are a top priority players identified to be addressed. Okay, ignore the facilities. They're replacing all of those this offseason. And as Nagler pointed out in a follow-up on Twitter, the Packers just replaced their locker room, and they got third in that. So the players love the locker room. So if those same players are going to experience an upgrade to a different facility that's led by the same organization, I have reason to believe that the training room's probably going to be badass and the players will love it. So forget the training room and the facilities and the equipment. I'm talking about the staff. A lack of trust and a lack of connection with the training staff. The two teams that were just in the Super Bowl, the Seahawks and the Patriots, I'm sure you've heard this talked about, were two of the healthiest teams in football. It depends on which metric you use, but I was looking at Sports Info Solutions today. And this was updated after the season. This was updated just weeks ago. The stat is most value lost to injury in the 2025 season. Games missed and total points missed. The Packers were near the top, all the way at the bottom. The healthiest team in football, the Patriots. The next healthiest were the Rams. And then third healthiest of all were the Seahawks. So the two teams in the Super Bowl were two of the three healthiest teams in football. Oh, yeah, and by the way, the other team in that final three were the Rams, who played the Seahawks to an inch of their life in their building in the NFC Championship game. So three of the final four teams in the whole league were the three healthiest teams in football. It's pretty important to keep your team healthy and to keep those cats on the field. Pretty important, right? Now, I don't think a better training staff with a better trust and a better connection with the players would have kept Tucker Kraft healthy. He took a knee or a whatever to the knee from Sean Ryan. That's bad luck. I think Micah Parsons was just in space, took an awkward step, and his knee gave out. Devontae Wyatt got rolled up on, broke his leg or broke his ankle. I don't blame the training staff for all of that. That would be irrational. Maybe I blame Xavier McKinney for the Micah Parsons injury. Catch that interception, the play never happens. That's probably irrational too, but whatever. I don't think the trainers were at fault for those three injuries, but I don't think that training staff was dialed in with the return of Zach Tom. He ran out there against the Browns, tried one play and was like, I can't do it. Seems like that's a little bit of a miss in evaluation of a player's injury. Lucas Van Ness, who is no world beater, is no superstar, but when he did play late in the season, looked pretty good. And were they not dying for anyone to pitch in on that defensive front without Wyatt, without Parsons? Gary's out there, but has no clue what's going on. Can't make any plays. You're telling me a healthy as possible Lucas Van Ness maybe doesn't make a play or two in one of those games down the stretch? I think that's very plausible, very believable. Brandon McManus's injury, the quad, how they handled that, he didn't look good in the playoffs. Now, maybe he just missed kicks. I think it was probably a big part of it, but the Packers were very back and forth and betwixt and between on that injury. Those are crucial players. Right tackle, your best lineman. Maybe your best remaining edge rusher, Lucas Van Ness, which says more about the rest of the room than it says about Lucas Van Ness. But again, I'm trying to be fair to Van Ness. When he was healthy and able to play in limited fashion down the stretch, he looked good. This is a worthwhile player. And Brandon McManus, your kicker, who left a bajillion points on the field late in the season. It would stand to reason that the training staff and the trust or lack thereof they have with the players between the training staff and the players seems to be pretty important. It might have told a significant part of the story of last year's Packers. Another thing that I've been thinking about since last week, the departure of Rich Bisaccia. I don't think Bisaccia was an unbelievable coach who led to unbelievable performance on the field. I don't think he's load-bearing guy X's and O's on Sunday. The more I read and what we gleaned from the player grades, I feel like he was a pretty important guy off the field. Can I give you a little bit from Ebo's show this morning? I'm going to give you 2 60-second cuts here. This is Ebo talking about his experience at a Lambeau Field this weekend where he was bumping elbows with some people in and around the organization who know a thing or two. I think Ebo did a great job laying this out. I'll just let it play.
It's a bizarre story. 38 days after the season ends, he's like, well, I don't want to do this anymore. Because, Gutekunst was glowing. Matt LaFleur was glowing. They really liked Rich Bisaccia. This conversation I was in, was saying how big of a blow it will be with Rich Bisaccia now gone. That Rich Bisaccia, and we know this about him, and all the reporters have said this, and players, that he is a player's coach. He's a super nice guy. And from my conversation, Rich Bisaccia knew every single player's name, their family members, their kids, would ask, like, hey, how's little Jimmy doing? Is your mom doing okay? Very personable guy. Very personable. And he was the guy that kind of like was the glue holding it all together.
So that's a little bit from Ebo, a little bit more. Again, this is after he was at Lambeau this last weekend for a Wisconsin broadcasters event. He was talking with some folks.
And the insinuations that I got was that Matt LaFleur was kind of above that. Maybe you're the head coach. You got a lot of things to worry about, but also overseeing the entire team. That Rich Bisaccia was the guy that everyone liked. Everyone liked. And that was the dude that, again, held it all together. And that Rich Bisaccia losing a lot of sleep at night with how things were unfolding and just how the perception and everything was, and just felt like it wasn't for him anymore and wanted to do something else. And that some of the vibe around Matt LaFleur was not the greatest. Wasn't the greatest.
So, first of all, I don't think Ebo is being unfair there, right? I don't think he was looking for a reason to rip LaFleur. I think it was very reasonable presentation of some information and some thoughts that he heard over the weekend when he was up in Green Bay. I am comparing this situation of Rich Bisaccia's kind of sudden departure to what happened with the Bucks and Terry Stotts a couple of years ago. And I thought that Terry Stotts' departure was overblown. It's like, you guys are losing your mind because Terry Stotts. I don't think Terry Stotts is some crazy, unbelievable coach that would have given the Bucks a massive advantage, but it was just a little bit of a canary in the coal mine for things to come with Adrian Griffin, right? Like, well, if he's jumping ship now, like, what does that say about what's going on behind the scenes? And I feel a little bit of the same about this Bisaccia situation with LaFleur. And I do think, if nothing else, we have reason to think that Rich Bisaccia was a little bit of a communicator, a lubricant, if you will, to use a Colin Cowherd term, a lubricant between head coach and players, assistant coach and players. He was maybe a little bit more personable piece of that coaching staff. And now without that, you're losing that lubricator, that connective piece of the coaching staff. And we come to learn the same week that Rich Bisaccia is leaving, we come to learn that a bunch of the Packers players don't feel like Matt LaFleur respects them. We learned that the same week that the special teams coach leaves at a weird time, to the surprise of Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst, the guy who everyone respected. Sounds like Rich Bisaccia respected all the players. Like, that seems like an important, personable piece of the coaching staff, even if I think technically his special teams left wanting, from an X's and O's perspective. So just these little things, just a trickle of off-season news and notes and stories. I'm like, man, it feels like the Packers are far away. Not from being good. I think they'll be good again next year. But I said this the week after the Bears game, and I said it when we learned of Matt LaFleur's extension. I don't think the Packers will be bad. I don't think LaFleur's a bad coach. But if I had to put every dollar in my bank account on a result next year, I would bet the Packers to be where they've been, which is the bottom of the playoff picture. And they're going to lose 3 or 4 games they have no business losing, which has been their problem. So the Packers feel far away. That's what I'm thinking about after being at the combine and being around NFL people and having some of those conversations over a cocktail. That's where the best conversations have it. 1 o'clock a.m. at the bar at St. Elmo's. I'll take your calls. It's been too long. 608-321-1670. Right to you next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Starting with some Packers, some combine fallout, just some big picture thoughts on the Packers offseason. And then it'll get quiet for a while. We'll get a little bit more Packers-centric and focused on specific things as the draft gets closer. I also want to get into the Brewers and the Bucks tonight. Giannis announced he's coming back, so we can talk about that for a few. But back to your phone calls for the first time in over a week. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, you had a lot of great takes in your opener there.
Vagabond. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not trying to be a hater. This Packers team feels really far away. And with every little nugget and storyline we get this offseason, it's like, man, I'm just not sure that I buy it. I'm done expecting them to take the leap next year like I have the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of your takes were great. Your best take, certainly. The Packers stuff was good. The best take, certainly, if you don't enjoy the Wisconsin Dells, you have a character flaw.
Character flaw.
That is.
I don't think you're a bad person. I don't think we could be friends. I just think there's something in you where you just need to let your societal hair down just a little bit. That's it.
My wife and I got married at the Chula Vista, off the beaten path in the woods, where a lot of the Brewers, the Bucks, the Packers have their weddings, and it's incredibly cheap. And the reason why it's incredibly cheap is there are so many people. I'm looking at you, Milwaukee. I'm looking at you, Gold Package. I'm looking at you, Eau Claire, right? That consider Wisconsin Dells just a little too trashy for a wedding. But let me tell you, it is incredibly cheap. Reach out to me on the channel if you want to talk details. But I was shocked that I have to pay $10,000 for a venue in Madison, and it's less than half of that to get married on a river in the Dells. Like that was Dells are worth that. That was the best take you had. But in terms of the Packers stuff, I mean, look, we were on this weeks ago on the Wisco Sports Show, right? Called in, talking about Rich Bisaccia. This is really strange. Mm-hmm. This is really strange that he's leaving. Like, this can't be the full story, that he's just, kind of up and going. We thought, like, the best case scenario for Green Bay was he has a health condition, he has a family thing, right? Obviously, worst case for him.
Yeah, I was going to say, not so good of a case for him, but yeah, I would probably
but in terms of football and organizationally, like, if there was some other reason other than this is an absolute dumpster fire program that he wants nothing to do with, right? That would be great for us to grasp onto. But all that we're left with is what we talked about 2 weeks ago, that this guy has been around the NFL. He's been on Super Bowl championship teams, right? He was the best interim head coach, most successful ever. And he's looking at Matt LaFleur, Brian Gutekunst, the Packers organization, and says, this is not where I want to continue my professional career.
Yeah.
That is telling. And there's a lot of stuff that we've talked about through the years in terms of Matt LaFleur and how he, handles his assistants, and a lot of Ebo stuff this morning I also thought was fascinating. But Grant, I couldn't agree with you more that right now, March 2nd, I feel like Green Bay is much further away from competing for a Super Bowl than they were a while ago. And that, that's assuming Micah Parsons comes back near 100%.
And
we have
Kraft.
no idea what happens with this guy. Yeah. And Kraft. And, I threw out a crazy idea on Friday on Evo's show where I'm like, look, man, it's Conspiracy Theory Friday. Let's trade Jordan Love to the New York Jets. If we want to be serious about competing for a Super Bowl, trade high. Seattle just won with Sam Darnold. Find another guy like that, get a bunch of draft picks, and move on, because that's kind of where I'm feeling. Because otherwise, I don't really see a path to how this team turns it around with the cap space, the lack of first-round, second-round talent that they have coming in the next couple of years. I don't know how it gets better unless they absolutely nail the back end of the draft. Grant, where do we get optimistic? That's my question for you.
So Vagabond, that's a good call. I don't know that I can give you optimism, but I can frame your thought process differently. I don't think their issue's been talent. I don't think their issue was talent this year. Their issue was they couldn't execute in the biggest moments. They were talented enough to win almost every game they played this year. You know what I mean? Like, they had a double-digit lead in Denver and blew it. Now, I give them a pass on that one because they had some crushing, crippling, just devastating injuries. So the human factor, I give them a break there. They had a lead over the Bears twice. They didn't lose those games because they didn't have enough talent. They lost those games because they couldn't cut the mustard in the fourth quarter. Same with the Browns. Same with the Panthers. Those were not losses because of talent. I don't think they lost any games because of talent this year. Honestly, I think they lost to Baltimore because they had no interest in playing. They lost to Philly because they couldn't execute when they started to approach the red zone. They pooped down their leg and moved backwards and had penalties and missed kicks and dropped passes. So, Vagabond, to your line of questioning, I don't know how they get the necessary pieces. I don't know how they get the good players. I think they've had the good players. This year, I think they were more than good enough to win all of the games they played, and they didn't, but not because of talent. Now, had they beat the Bears in the first round of the playoffs, and then they go lose to Seattle, we come away from that game thinking, well, you didn't have the horses because you were missing Tucker Kraft, Devontae White. Well, that's a different conversation, but I think the season they had, point to me a game they lost because they weren't talented enough. I don't think that game exists. 608-321-1670. Let's go Sports Show. Who's this?
This is the birthday dude. Boom shakalaka, baby. Thomas in lacrosse. On air Thomas, UWL Thomas, TG, whatever the heck you want to call me.
Well, happy birthday, Thomas. We didn't give you, I didn't get a chance to wish you a happy birthday. Another caller did on Bill's show.
Yes, that was Greg from Michigan, Mr. Positive.
Well, what do you think, Thomas? Happy birthday again.
Thank you. I think, you know what? Hot take. I think Howie's is the place to be for a birthday. I was there earlier this afternoon for 2-for-1 burgers. The best.
So I do
the
like
best.
I will humor you for 10 seconds because it's your birthday. What burger did you get?
Oh, you are hitting my good spot. I had the what was it, the buffalo one? The one with that really spicy sauce. Oh, you should have seen my reaction to that spicy sauce. It was the buffalo ranch burger, and then I also had the rodeo burger, I want to say.
Yep.
With the bacon and the pulled pork. Yes. Grant, can I get a little philosophical before you let me go?
Go ahead.
All right. Hey, everybody. In the words of Greg from Michigan, Mr. Positive, who may or may not, maybe, I don't know, because you have 4 lines, right, Greg? Grant, you have 4 lines. He might be after me. He might be line 3. I'm just saying.
He could be.
But if he is, he could. I'm just saying. Go for your dreams, everybody. Boom shakalaka. This is Thomas, the birthday 23-year-old. That's all I got for you, Grant. I want to respect everybody else's time.
Happy birthday, Thomas. I know exactly what's on both of those burgers at Howie's. I used to work there. I had to memorize the full menu, which is a good business practice, I guess, but a business practice I'd never really fully embraced because all the ingredients are on the menu. It's like, hey, Grant, what's on the Kansas City Crunch Burger? Well, I can tell you, but you can also refer to the menu. All the ingredients are listed out very plainly. Thomas, I will humor you on that today because it's your birthday. Wisco Sports Show, line 4. Who's this?
Happy birthday, Thomas. Grant, welcome back from Indy.
Thank you, Colin.
Isn't Indy just the perfect city to host these events?
See, I'm trying to avoid saying all these things because these are the things that everybody says, but it really is designed. That whole place is designed for big events like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure St. Elmo's, this is probably their busiest week of the year, I would have to imagine.
Well, you got to have the cocktail. Do you know they put horseradish in the cocktail sauce for the shrimp cocktail?
No. Wow.
Really?
Learn something new every year.
I know. You learn something new all the time. So next year, Thomas, we'll have to get you to Indy for your birthday. And I love Howie's on Lacrosse Street is great. Next year, maybe we'll send Hot Take Thomas down to Indy. He can leave his phone here.
Yeah, my short time in lacrosse, Howie's a little overrated. Kind of a location merchant, if you ask me.
Okay. All right. We could discuss that at a different time. What's that? Do you have a Packers take for me?
Yeah, I think you and Vagabond are suffering a little bit from too long without football.
Okay.
Where you need to go to create all these takes out of thin air, because I remember not too long ago watching these playoffs, we were all saying the Packers are not far off. We can compete. We are right there. And then, a couple weeks go by, we start a war, and now you're saying that they have no chance. They feel further off. I don't know how you get there.
So you're probably right. You're definitely right that we go a little crazy in the offseason and we come up with takes that maybe aren't fair. And I remember saying this during the postseason. I don't think the Bears were more talented than the Packers. The Seahawks maybe a little bit. The Patriots, I don't think so. I don't think talent is their issue. I watch these other teams and they make badass plays. They execute in the biggest moments. I don't trust the Packers to do that. So if all of a sudden this offseason, if they grow up or Matt LaFleur or Jordan Love get way more clutch, then they're right there. I guess, but my feeling is more based in that I'm done expecting that. I'm done thinking, Cone, that, next year is the year they're going to take the leap, because I've thought that the last 2 years and it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's, I don't know if that's just an indictment on the coaching. Sure, to a portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think also you got to look at Brian Gutekunst. You got to look at these players, and, players get paid to make plays.
Mm-hmm.
And Jordan Love's great in the playoffs. Okay. Jury's still out, question mark. I don't know. But yeah, we just have a lot of good talent. I think we need great.
Yeah. I think, look, they could benefit from another great player here or there, Cone. I appreciate it. I think, the most likely path to that is Edgerrin Cooper pops and is a stud, not just an exciting young player that everyone loves, but he's like a game-breaking stud player. Xavier McKinney catching the ball, just little things like this. I think some of the players on the field had just left a little bit to be desired this last year. I think to blame everything on Matt LaFleur is to let the players off the hook and let the quarterback off the hook. I think Jordan Love was far from their biggest issue this year. Don't get me wrong. I think I'm higher on the season that we just saw more than most. I think Jordan Love was tremendous this year. But sometimes it's not enough to just be really good. Sometimes you need 2 or 3 additional throws, even if you played a great game. And I think he played a great game against the Bears. In the third or the fourth quarter, was there 1 or 2 plays that, to win a playoff game on the road against a divisional rival, you need to play really well and then still make a couple extra plays. I think it's unfair to just completely and totally look past the quarterback to blame the coach, because it makes us feel better. You know what I mean? All right, another caller or two here. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, JB in Menasha calling.
Hey, what's up, JP?
Hey, we're going with conspiracy theories. Maybe Bisaccia was the problem. If the guys have someone they can go whine to and cry to, maybe that's why we didn't come through when I'm not saying I agree with that, but that's another thought. I coached a long time. Granted, it was just high school stuff, but they always like my assistant a little better than they like me.
Yeah. Oh, you need that guy, right? The human guy, where it's like after a hard practice, he's going to stay late and chat with you about this or that. And maybe that's not the head coach's, or maybe that's not the coordinator's thing. You're right. Absolutely.
But I think it's great. The other side of it, though, if he knew everybody's, I think that's key, to know everybody, and you need guys like that. But, maybe that was part of their issue, that they're just not tough enough, because they didn't I bet you they didn't like Belichick, but they won 7 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
And I bet there was a lot of guys who didn't like him. But who knows what the reasons are.
Well, and I think that's a great call, JB. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening up in Menasha on the Score. That's what I said last week when these grades came out, because in these grades, it was like, well, players don't feel like Matt LaFleur respects them. He was near the bottom in the league in that. And my point was, well, I bet the same would have been true of Belichick. The thing is, Belichick, it worked. He got all those guys to make the game-winning plays, and they won those games. There's plenty of players who spoke about their time in New England like, yeah, it wasn't very fun. Like it was. Some players have described their time in New England as like, yeah, that was pretty miserable. But they won. And in Green Bay, you're getting a coach that seems like he might have a stick up his butt, but they're not winning. It's not working. So you're getting the worst of both worlds. I buy that on Bisaccia completely, that he was the human guy, and maybe Matt LaFleur is more of the crack the whip guy, stick up his butt, more of a red ass guy, and Bisaccia was the guy after practice. Okay, let's chat about, how you doing? How's your family? That stuff. That's important. It is interesting. Bisaccia went to Clemson today, we learned. Tom Silverstein quote tweeted the scoop and said, I was told Bisaccia was interested in a college job, but didn't think it was for this season. Didn't take him long to find a new home, assuming this gets finalized. To me, that's Tom saying, man, I didn't think he was just going to jump right back in. I read that as Tom saying, well, I thought he probably wanted to take a little time. I thought he was burned out. I thought he was kind of over it. I thought he needed a break. And you're telling me he's jumping right back. That's how I read that. Now I'm reading between the lines and I'm trying to interpret it. Maybe that's not what Tom is saying at all. But Tom Silverstein, who's been doing this as long as anybody, is basically saying, well, I heard he might go to college, but didn't think it would be now. So maybe Bisaccia had given the Packers the rope-a-dope a little bit on the way out. Like, oh, I don't know. I want to spend some time with my family. I'm burned out at this whole thing. I need a break. All right, see ya. Run down the street to Clemson. It's like telling your girlfriend, oh, man, I need some alone time. I need to be by myself. Okay, we'll split up. And then you right away, you get with the other girl. That type of thing. 608-321-1670. One more. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. It's Caleb in La Crosse.
Hey, Caleb. What's up?
I just got to say, I think we've had a great run of calls in like the last 10 minutes or so.
I think so. Do you think Howie's is a location merchant?
I think somewhat. Yes, I would agree. I do think Buzzard Billy's is the best restaurant that we have here in La Crosse, hands down.
All right. Hell yeah. I'm more partial to the flip side myself, but they're both sponsors of the network, so I'll take it.
March 26th, you're coming there, right?
Hell yeah.
All right, I will see you there.
Hell yeah, Caleb.
Anyway, though, Packers take, and really just I think football take as a whole, is the idea that every single year there's obviously only one person who wins the Super Bowl. Well, can have some teams, but I think at the end of the day, like, yeah, I'm sad when the Packers lose. Obviously, I'm sad when the Packers lose, but I get it to some degree, and I think sometimes we have the talent, but there has to be to some degree, a perfect storm in order for any team to win the Super Bowl. And you even think about the Seahawks. Yeah, they were probably the best team, but at the end of the day, things still had to go right for them in order for them to win the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah. So I'm with you, Caleb. I appreciate it. I'm just up against a break. So call in. We'll talk more soon. Sorry that you get the short end of the stick here. I'm with you that they need luck. I don't walk away from that Bears loss thinking, well, things didn't go their way. Or the previous Bears loss. Like, there have been playoff games where I felt like, man, they didn't get a coin flip. They didn't get a bounce of the ball. They didn't get this. They had that Bears game. You just need to make a couple of plays. So I'm with you. I am well aware it's hard to win a championship and you need some things to go your way. I don't feel like that was the reason they came up short this year. Now, if they go to Seattle, could have lost a different way. Maybe we'd be having a different conversation. But a big part of what I'm thinking about this offseason, man, I would have liked you guys to make it to Seattle. I'd like to have an offseason where it's like, man, if only they had Kraft and if only they had Wyatt. But I can't think that way because you blew it to the Bears after being up 18 points to start the third quarter. I got to take a break. We'll be right back.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Got some Brewers things, some Bucks things that I wanted to discuss. We'll do that in hour number 2. But the phone calls are coming in hot and heavy on the Packers, so we'll keep going. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
This is Tyson from Madison.
Hey, Tyson, what's going on?
Oh, man, not much. So I'm enjoying this episode as well. I think we got quite a run going with calls as well. Hopefully I can keep the party going. This is another wild speculation because they give us no choice. He was not letting us in completely. We have to sit here and, try and figure out what happened. But with Rich, is it possible that he has just been the whipping boy since day one? That maybe that was his role, to be brought in, to be the
scapegoat,
to be the one to deliver the bad news to the players, to be able to do special teams, knowing that we're not going to give you anything, but you got to sell it, and you got
Sure.
Is it possible that they overpaid him to do a job that no one else would do, and they decided he was done with it?
So he maybe decided that he was done with it. Look, and Tyson, I appreciate it. I just on a time crunch. I've heard from more than one person that this was weighing on Bisaccia. Now, I first heard this when Schefter went on ESPN Wisconsin, ESPN Milwaukee, I think, and was like, I think Rich Bisaccia was really struggling. He thought like he was letting the team down. And when I heard Schefter say that, I'm like, well, I'm sure lots of coaches are frustrated with their performance. No coach fires themselves. No coach goes to their boss and is like, I know I'm under contract making a pile of money, but I don't feel like I've held up my end of the bargain, so I'm going to walk away and leave money on the table. No coaches do that. But I have heard it. Ebo, I'll play that sound to begin hour number 2. He has some juice. He has some intel from some time he spent in Green Bay this weekend. He talked about very loosely, not putting anyone on blast, but it seemed like Rich Bisaccia, like this was weighing on him. Now, I also think there's a chance that he was like, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go work at Clemson. I got this other job waiting for me. I got to sell it to get out of here. I'm like, I don't want to. It's not me, or it's not you. It's me, and I need some time alone. Okay, now I'm out of there. All right, pack the car. We're going to South Carolina. We're going to Clemson. Like maybe. But I have heard from a couple different places and a couple different sources now that like he was struggling to sleep. He was at the end of his rope, So maybe I don't think he was the bad news guy, Tyson, though. I think it sounds like he was the opposite. He was the good guy. He was the good cop, and Matt LaFleur was the guy with a stick up his butt. And now Matt LaFleur lost the good cop. So now Matt LaFleur is maybe going to have to play to that human element a bit that, again, maybe he thought as the head coach, I don't have time for this. I'm above this. Rich, go take care of this. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this? Hello. Line 4. All right, call me back. Sorry about that. Line 1, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's the legend, Mr. Positive.
Greg in
Boom
Michigan.
shakalaka.
What's
going
on, Craig?
How are you, Grant?
Good. I heard you on Bill's show earlier today.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you a call and ask you a little bit of updating news about the Detroit Lions. But first of all, I got to say happy birthday to TG, Thomas Graney, Hot Topics Thomas. Fantastic young man. We're losing David Montgomery.
Yeah.
Sonic and Knuckles. We no longer have Knuckles.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that's going to hurt us?
He's good.
How badly?
He's a good player to me, Greg, and you probably follow Michigan sport. I would think Detroit sports a lot closer than me. To me, they got a lineman back in this deal. They got 2 picks and an O-lineman back in this deal. I think Dan Campbell, after last year, said, we can't have a bad O-line again. It's too important to the culture that we've built. It's too important to what Dan Campbell's built. We can't have a bad O-line. We can't have an old injured O-line again. So if we can trade away a running back and get back 2 picks and an O-lineman to kind of start patching that unit back up, I think that's the motivation behind it. Is less so they're unhappy with Montgomery or his contract, although I'm sure maybe that's part of it. And more so they want more resources and players along that O-line, because that's kind of where it started with Dan Campbell when he got there.
Very good. I like that thinking, Grant. That's very positive.
Well,
hey, thanks for taking my call, everybody. Go for your dreams. And real quick, Grant,
yeah,
please go see the Elvis movie. You'll like it. Trust me.
Thank you, Craig. Told that to Bill earlier today, too. Bill still hasn't seen Song Some Blue, which he has to do. We're getting news from the Bucks. Doc Rivers is speaking right now that he expects Giannis to play tonight. I can give you a thought on that because Giannis is coming back. We can do a couple quick minutes on that. Maybe a Brewers thought as well. Do a hard reset at 5 o'clock. and we'll get back to the Packers talk for those of you who haven't gotten a chance to get in yet. Tonight's show, presenting sponsor Road America, over on the eastern portion of the state up by Elkhart Lake. And I don't know about you, but it seems like now that the calendar's turned to March, it's all starting to feel very real. I have a couple of things coming up the month of March, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, in April, that's right, I'm doing that thing on this weekend in May, and all of a sudden it's like, when's that bachelor party again? It's starting to pick up. So make sure you check out the schedule at roadamerica.com and circle the events, figure out, okay, when do we want to make our trip? What things do we want to make sure that we're in attendance? Maybe we want the vintage cars. Maybe we want the Indy cars. Maybe we want to go for the big banana, right? When do we need to get the camper ready so we can take it over there? That whole thing. Make sure you get your calendar figured out, roadamerica.com. You can check out their events calendar. You can buy your tickets, buy your passes as well, but at the very least, make sure that you have that weekend or you have that event figured out for the summer so it's all lined up so you don't miss out. roadamerica.com. We appreciate their sponsorship of the show. A quick minute on the Bucks and Giannis' return when we come back.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
What's the most valuable asset that the Bucs would have to improve the team in the offseason? It would be a lottery pick. And I hate to be hypocritical because we have been very critical of the tanking epidemic, right? There's a tanking epidemic because that's the smartest strategy. This is not in the Bucs' best long-term interest. We're not going to pretend that the Bucs have a chance in hell of doing anything in the Eastern Conference playoffs this year. They can pretend that in Milwaukee. No, stop it. Stop it. No, the Bucs do not have any chance of doing anything. They're not going to win. they're not going to win a single playoff game. I will say that right now.
Yes. It's Tim McMahon on ESPN earlier today. This coming just hours after Shams Charania and others reporting Giannis plans to return tonight. Doc Rivers speaking within the last half hour, echoing that, saying, I expect him to play tonight. In fact, Giannis has been chomping at the bit this last week. He's wanted to play so bad, which is, by the way, quintessential Doc Rivers press conference material. Saying, hey, Doc, is Giannis going to play tonight? Bud would have said, Most coaches would say, yep, we expect him to be available tonight. Doc never stops and answers the question. He's always got to answer the question and then give you something else. Doc, do you expect Giannis to play tonight? Yeah, we expect him to be available tonight. And I tell you what, he's angry he hasn't been able to play the last week. You know, like he's got to go above and beyond and give you the next thing. I found this Tim McMahon audio, this take on ESPN, to be interesting. I think Tim McMahon is one of the good ones. I like him. In every podcast clip or every segment I watch with him, he always seems to be very reasonable. He's covered the league a long time. I think I knew him, and most folks knew him as a writer before anything else. So he's not someone who just showed up on TV and it's like, well, I know the league. I guess I'll just start blasting, start giving takes. I think I agree with Tim McMahon. It's like it would actually probably be better for the Bucks for Giannis to sit the rest of the year or miss a majority of the rest of the year, so the Bucks can lose as many games as possible, have as good of a lottery pick as possible, and then reassess. Now, the idea might be, or the thought process might be, well, if the Bucks can just get into the playoffs, they're going to have Giannis, so who knows? So that is conventional thinking. That it typically has been, well, best player is going to typically win the series. The Bucks right now are the 11th seed. They are 3 games back of the Hornets, who are the 10th seed. The Hornets are hungry. The Hawks should be hungry. The teams above them should be hungry. Those are young teams trying to start to break through. Even if the Bucks are able to win enough to get into the postseason, which I'm skeptical of, the Bucks got a nice win over the Cavs, barely beating the Cavs last week, who were without their 3 best players. They beat them by 2. And then they follow that up by losing by almost 30. No, losing by 30 at home to the Knicks. And then losing by 23 at the Bulls yesterday. Okay, so that's what he's coming back to. I want Giannis to play. I want Giannis to be a Buck. I like Giannis. I like the Bucks. I'm a Bucks fan. I'm a Giannis fan. So I'm happy when he's playing for my team. Like I'm stating all of this super obvious stuff because I do want that clear. That is how I feel. But also, like my take on the Bucks for the last month or two has been like they're just kind of wasting everybody's time. There's not a team in professional sports currently wasting everyone's time better than the Bucks. Like Doc is not the coach of the future. This is not the team of the future. So what are we doing? So again, I like Giannis. He's my favorite player in the NBA. I like the Bucks. They're my favorite team in the NBA. I would love for my favorite player to play for my favorite team. Sure. I think I'm with Tim McMahon on this one. I don't know that the Bucks wouldn't win a single game in a 7-game series. I don't know. But no, I do not believe there's a world in which, well, the Bucks just got to get in. And then if Giannis is healthy, I mean, he's the best player in the series. Who knows what could happen? I kind of feel like I know what would happen. It's been happening for the last 4 years, ever since they lost in the second round to the Celtics, that badass series that went 7. They've been losing in the first round, and the team has been getting worse every year, and Giannis has been getting older and more injury prone every year. So no, this year isn't going to be any different. So what are we doing? What are we working toward? Happy my favorite player's back on my favorite team. That's nice. But I don't know who it's benefiting other than way, yay, wee. All right, we'll get an update from Zach. More Packers talk next.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, Wisconsin is back on the floor for practice today as they get ready for the final 2 games of the regular season this week, including Wednesday's final home game against Maryland. Badgers coming off a split of their West Coast road trip, losing to Oregon but beating Washington. The game against the Huskies featured a record-breaking performance from Braden Carrington. The transfer hit 9 3-pointers, which broke the school record of 8. He admitted that it's meaningful for him, especially since this is the only year he's in Madison.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It took a while for me to, I think, really realize it. I think the whole year, being just a little guy, you don't expect to have a moment like that too much. And I never really cared to have something like that. So for it to actually happen, it's a special moment. And for me to actually make a mark in the year that I'm going to be here, it's special for sure.
Carrington and the 3 others going to be honored on senior night on Wednesday. Wisconsin has secured a double bye next week's Big Ten tournament, though their exact seed is not yet set in stone. Turning the Bucks, they will look to snap a 2-game losing streak tonight when the Celtics come to Fiserv Forum, and they will get some help as Giannis Antetokounmpo is expected to return after missing the last 5 weeks with a calf injury.
At a time when children are in crisis, the Kids Mental Health Foundation envisions a future where mental health is a vital part of growing up, and support starts with all of us. At home, at school, at practice, kids are. The Kids Mental Health for Children in the U.S. and has free tools and information developed by experts.
Having those resources is the same as the CPR class to me. We're trying to save a life here.
Check out kidsmentalhealthfoundation.org to get started.
Spring training continues for the Brewers down in Arizona, though they don't play again until Wednesday when they will face the Cubs. Meanwhile, a double-digit number of players in the organization are going to be taking part in the World Baseball Classic, which gets going this week. And NFL free agency now just a week away. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Yeah. Again, losing him is tough just because of what he brought to our football team. But I think there were just other opportunities that he wanted to pursue. He's coached a long time in the National Football League, and as you know, it can be a grind. And I think he had some other opportunities that he was looking at. Really good coach, and wherever he ends up, that place is going to be better for it.
A number of our games the past couple of years, we've been up in the games and just not been able to close them out. And our group's we got to get to that point. I think we're on our way there. I really like the guys in our locker room. That's an area that we have to fix.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Hour number 2, Monday Mailbag in 45 minutes. So submit your questions. GrantBills21@gmail.com. BILSE. GrantBills21@gmail.com. All topics for consideration. I would love to discuss the Wisconsin Dells further. I was there this weekend. I was in Indianapolis for the Combine all of last week. So if you have anything you want to discuss there, fine. Otherwise, anything. All topics for my consideration. Your questions for my answering. GrantBills21@gmail.com. I want to reset with my Packers thoughts from all the way back at 4 o'clock. I have some Brewers things that I want to cover this hour as well. I just feel like coming out of the Combine last week, this Packers team feels really far away. Not from being good. I think they'll be good. They've been good the last couple of years. Now, dangerously close from, being the first team out of the playoffs. So I'm not going to act like they've won 13 games in each of the last couple of seasons, but they've been playoff teams, played plenty of good ball, and have been one of the better teams in the league. So I don't doubt that they're good. I like their play caller. I love their quarterback. I like their tight end. I like their wide receivers, like McKinney, Evan Williams. Like there's plenty to like on this team. I'm not telling you they stink. I've been thinking more since getting back from the Combine and, some of the things that you hear and just conversations that you have. The Packers feel really far away from being a Super Bowl team. That final hurdle, going from a 9-win team to a 12 or 13-win team that's in a Super Bowl. That feels like a massive hurdle. And to my mind's eye, at this moment, that feels like a hurdle the Packers are not capable of clearing. Because I thought after Jordan Love's first year as a starter, they would take a jump. And maybe in some ways they did, but Jordan Love was banged up and maybe the expectations were too high. But after 2 years ago, I thought, okay, now Jordan Love year 3 as a starter. Now they have Micah Parsons. Here's the year. And they won the same amount of games. They won 9 games. And don't give me injuries because they lost some of those games with Tucker Kraft, with Micah Parsons, with Devontae Wyatt. And then the games that they lost without those guys, they had a lead. So if you're good enough to be up 18 points, you're good enough to win the game. And they couldn't. So this Rich Bisaccia story that we first started to kind of parse and piece and follow last week, we learned from Brian Gutekunst that it was a surprise that he stepped away. They weren't aware. Well, when we first heard this news, I thought, okay, the timing is weird, but I bet Matt LaFleur was at least aware of this possibility. I bet in the back of his mind, he had a list of players. It's like, yeah, it seems like Rich might not be back. We're giving him time, and we're starting to put feelers out. No, they were surprised. They were shocked. Brian Gutekunst admitted so. His media avail with the local media last week in Indianapolis. It feels very Terry Stottsy when Terry Stotts announced that he'd be leaving the Bucs staff like a week or two before the season started. And I didn't want to overreact at the time, but that should have told us a thing or two about how things were going behind the scenes with Adrian Griffin, who would ultimately be fired even though his team was near the top of the Eastern Conference. I can't remember exactly where they were in the standings, but they were good. They were like 30-13 or 35-13 or something like that. So that Terry Stotts departure, that the timing of it as well, it's like, maybe that tells us a little something about the way things are going behind the scenes. This is a little bit from Ebo on the morning show this morning. He had some juice after being up in Green Bay this last weekend. I got 2 segments here, or 2 cuts, both about a minute long.
It's a bizarre story. 38 days after the season ends, he's like, well, I don't want to do this anymore. Because, Gutekunst was glowing. Matt LaFleur was glowing. They really liked Rich Bisaccia. This conversation I was in was saying how big of a blow it will be with Rich Bisaccia now gone. That Rich Bisaccia, and we know this about him, and all the reporters had said this, and players, that he is a player's coach. He's a super nice guy. And from my conversation, Rich Bisaccia knew every single player's name, their family members, their kids, would ask, like, hey, how's little Jimmy doing? Is your mom doing okay? Very personable guy. Very personable. And he was the guy that kind of like was the glue holding it all together.
So when Ebo at the beginning said, well, we've heard from, LaFleur and Gutekunst and LaFleur have talked about that, how much they would have wanted him back. And when Bisaccia left, I came on the air and said, guys, I don't think this was like some sneaky delayed firing. I think the Packers, if they had their druthers, would have Rich Bisaccia back as the assistant head coach and the special teams coordinator. I think Bisaccia left on his own. The Packers, then we learned, were surprised by it. Not only were they fighting against it, they were surprised by it. Here's more from Ebo this morning. Again, good stuff on Over the Line.
And the insinuations that I got was that Matt LaFleur was kind of above that. Maybe you're the head coach. You got a lot of things to worry about, but also overseeing the entire team. That Rich Bisaccia was the guy that everyone liked. Everyone liked. And that was the dude that, again, held it all together. And that Rich Bisaccia losing a lot of sleep at night with how things were unfolding and just how the perception and everything was, and just felt like it wasn't for him anymore and wanted to do something else. And that some of the vibe around Matt LaFleur was not the greatest. Wasn't the greatest.
There you go. A little juice from Ebo this morning. Just doesn't make me feel great about the inner workings at 1265. I don't think the team is going to suck because we're without Rich Bisaccia's expertise. We won't know where to line up. We won't know what, because they struggled with that stuff originally. I think it's more a symptom of what's going on in the organization. That's what worries me more. Another thing that worries me, again, just to recap what we saw last week, and I mentioned this back at 4 o'clock, Aaron Nagler reporting, Cheesehead TV last week, the Packers fell 14 spots to 21st overall in this year's report card. The steepest year-over-year decline of any team. The drop is largely driven by the decline in ratings for the training room and training staff, which now rank in the bottom third of the league. Players report a lack of space and outdated recovery equipment, along with the lack of communication and trust in the training room. That's the thing that interests me, because they're redoing the training room. I bet that'll be good next year. The lack of communication and trust. I don't think Tucker Kraft, Micah Parsons, and Devontae Wyatt got hurt because of bad trainers. I do wonder why Zach Tom came back in Cleveland and could only go one play. Swing and a miss on that return to play, plan. Lucas Van Ness comes back, makes it like 7 plays, has to leave again. So I question that return to play plan. And whatever they were doing with Brandon McManus in that quad or that thigh or whatever he hurt. Matt LaFleur, how's your kicker doing? I don't know. I don't talk to kickers. Well, a funny, cute line for a football coach, but actually your special teams blow. Could you at least pretend to care about him? Could you at least feign interest in what's going on with your kicker? So I question the coaching staff and how they work with the players. I question why Rich Bisaccia wanted to leave and what comes next. It feels very Terry Stottsian, Stottsish, Stotty. when he left the Bucks in Adrian Griffin's first year. Just have questions. They feel far away. I don't trust the thing from top to bottom. I like Matt LaFleur well enough. I like a lot of the players well enough. I like their quarterback. The leadership and the way the thing is wired from top to bottom, I don't know if I trust it. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Darnell.
I knew this was you, Darnell. What's up?
Welcome back.
Thank you. I missed you.
Missed you too. Missed our conversations more than anything,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Here's the thing. With the NFL teams, it just doesn't feel like you ever build towards something.
Okay.
Like when you say in 2022 or 2023, Jordan Love's first year, it felt like we were building to the next year. We were going to be really good the next year, but that never really happened. And then we felt this year was supposed to be the year that we were building to. It doesn't feel like that really happens in the NFL all that much, where you don't go through these large rebuilding periods like you see in like the NBA or the MLB.
Sure.
The NFL seems a lot more like if you plug and play the right draft, you can go from just look at the Patriots. You can go from worst to first. You can do this kind of thing. So I don't know so much if it's like, well, I don't know if they're building the right way or they're building towards something that's a Super Bowl caliber team. I think it's more if they hit the right things in the draft and some injury luck goes their way and a couple of maybe the middling players up their game, they can do anything. They can also completely fall off the bridge. Like there's not really a floor in the NFL either. You saw the Detroit Lions go from being a juggernaut for 3 years to missing the playoffs last year. So I'm of the belief that if it's meant to be in the NFL, it'll happen. But you don't really build you don't really rebuild in the NFL. I think you have to put the right players in the right spots, and you don't just say like, oh well, this guy's young, he'll get better, or this guy's an MLB, right? Like to use the MLB, right? This guy's a really great prospect. He's going to be good in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do that in the NFL, right? So I think you kind of know what you have, and if you know that what you have isn't good enough to win a Super Bowl, you have to change what you have.
Sure.
Right? Instead of just letting it mature, and it'll be fine once it matures. Well, not always, and also we have really, really, really short memories in the NFL. So it's very much, what did you do for me this year? What did you do for me last year? Maybe 3 years ago at the most, right? And then you're done. So I think this is the year that, they got to put the right pieces together and they got to do something, because I think that a lot of Packer fans are fed up with the constant playoff losses in the first round, at least in the last couple of years, and kind of falling flat towards the end of the season regardless. Right? We had the Toyotathon 2023 with Jordan Love going crazy at the end of the year, and then they beat the Cowboys, and then they fell flat. And then last year was even uglier than that. And then this year, even worse. They lost their final 5 games. So yeah, you got to see something different. And I think that they kind of made a mistake with keeping LaFleur, but we'll see how that happens. Maybe Bisaccia was the problem. It doesn't sound like Ebo thinks that, but maybe Bisaccia was the problem.
Maybe. I just okay. So you gave me a lot there, Donald. I'm gonna let you go. So I'm going to focus on the first half of your phone call, which is in the NFL, you don't really rebuild. I don't think that's true because, well, put it this way. When you rebuild, you're building from nothing. So you're starting new quarterback, new line, I think in those instances from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, you should be building because your team, you're adding, you're drafting, you're starting over like what Dan Campbell did in Detroit. So I think with teams like those, you do rebuild and it is linear from year to year. When you're a team that has actual playoff expectations, and you're trying to go from 9 wins to 11 wins, 11 wins to 14 wins, right? When you're in that echelon, you've established yourself, you've built a contender, and you're trying to take the steps. I do think the NFL is different from the NBA or Major League Baseball in that, especially the NBA. The NBA, typically what you do is you burst onto the scene, you make the playoffs, you lose. Then next year, you come back and you make the conference finals and you lose, or you make the NBA finals and you lose. And then you come back the next year and you go the rest of the way. Most teams follow that progression. Most teams, not all, but most. It's pretty tried and true formula and blueprint. You look back through, especially recent NBA history. That's how it goes, right? You take steps a little bit better every year. I agree with you in the NFL that once you establish yourself as a contender, there's not really year-to-year offseason momentum, anything like that. And while you were talking, Darnell, I thought of this comment from Ben Johnson that I played in January because I agree and I like it. I think it's really smart. He's talking about how, look, like, we're going to have to come back next year and start over. We don't get to start at the same place we just finished. I know it was a great first year for Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, but his point is we're starting back at ground zero again next season.
You guys are going to be able to build off this, and that
there is no building off of this. We go back to square one. We're back at the bottom again, and that's really all 32 teams. If you feel otherwise, you're probably missing the big picture. You know, we're back at. We got to start from scratch. We got to start from the fundamentals. You know, a lot of guys talked about how difficult this training camp was. I didn't feel like it was anything out of my ordinary. They know what the expectation is. They know what the process is that we believe in as a coaching staff. And so I think more than anything else, they're going to know what they're getting themselves into. And yet we got to dig a little bit deeper. We got to work a little bit harder. We got to give a little bit more if we want to take this thing over the top. I mean, it's no different. You're trying to lose weight. You're trying to lose 50 pounds. The first 30 is the easiest 30. You know, the last 20, that's the hard part. And so we did a nice job this year, but it's not enough. We got to do more.
So I think that's just really smart. I think he's right. And I agree. And that's probably one is like, when was that? I was trying to go back and find that soundbite because I remember playing it. I don't think football is linear, like Darnell said. I think every offseason you're starting over, which I guess for this Packers team is good because it feels like they're sure stuck in first round exits. And if they come out next year and it feels a little different and they get a little light and they start 4-5-0 and they win some big games, well, then you're off and running. My fear is this year they started 2-0 and it's like, here we go, we've arrived. And then the rest of the season felt the exact same. I noticed at the Ringer last week, Deontay Lee put out his offseason projections, his way too early, power rankings. He's got the Packers at 14, which seems pretty low, beneath the Lions, beneath the Ravens, beneath the Eagles, beneath the Niners, beneath the Bears, beneath the Chargers. Sure. What? Yeah, right. Beneath the Texans, beneath the Jags, beneath the Patriots, beneath the Bills, beneath the Broncos, beneath the Rams, beneath the Seahawks. But it's more the write-up that interests me on the Packers. This is Deontay Lee of the Ringer. Green Bay's been knocking on the door every season since 2020, excuse me. And each offseason is filled with the promise that next year would deliver the breakthrough. With such a young roster in recent years, it's okay to have some patience as this team learned how to win. That patience ends now. The Packers added edge rusher Micah Parsons last offseason. They have an incredibly talented quarterback in Jordan Love, and those two stars are surrounded by one of the most balanced rosters in the league. I would agree. There's no excuse for Green Bay to not make a deep run in 2026. Look, if they win 14 games and they go toe-to-toe with the Seahawks or the Rams in the divisional round and lose, I will feel like that's a bigger success. I'll feel like that's a step. I don't think it's like they better make the conference championship or else. Let's start with they need to win double-digit games and not be the 7th seed. Can we do that? Let's start there. Now, Deontay Lee wrote about the youth on this team. I think that's something that the Packers should think about tweaking or augmenting. We'll discuss that next. Remember, submit a question for the Monday Mailbag, grantbills21@gmail.com. We'll do that in about a half hour.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
You need to have veteran players on your team to mother their peers in practice, and to bring that edge and that juice every single week. I think there were times the last 3 years, but the last 2 especially, where the Packers thought, the players in particular thought, we can just roll the ball out and win, and they didn't show up with the right mindset.
Well, who's that? Where's that attitude come from? The coach?
I don't think it's coming from the coach, because I think he believes in the process and he believes in executing every play. I think it comes from being the youngest team in the league. And you have to have some veteran leaders. It's why I think they should go sign Calais Campbell. It's why I think they should sign Demario Davis, even though he's as old as you and I. Because I think that those guys are not going to allow that stuff to happen, because they're chasing Super Bowls. They've been in the league. They know if you don't have the right mindset every week, they've been in the league 15, 16, 20 years in the case of Calais Campbell. They know that you can't play like that, and they will help ensure that that does not happen. But now these guys are getting older now.
Pete Bukowski, that was on our friend Bart Winkler's Into the Winklerverse podcast, and I cut it because I've heard that before. It's been brought up on the show. Not to be like, I can't believe it took Pete this long. We were there first. But anytime I hear a take and then I hear it reappear and then I hear it again, it's like, oh, maybe we're all onto something here. I think Louis and Eau Claire brought that up like a year ago, who said, hey, this team seems to make a lot of little mistakes and not be all that connected in crunch time. And they don't always execute and nail the little things. Like, at what point do we look at the roster and the age of all the players on the roster? And, well, if it's the youngest, roster in football, at what point does that show up in practice habits or, their ability to execute, that sort of thing? The problem is the Packers are, they're actually over the cap right now. Zach talked about that in his update at 5:00. So they're going to have to work to get under it. Now you can manipulate the cap and you can pay out money, so find a way to work around it. But I don't know that they have a ton of capital, or I don't know that they have the means to get a bunch of veterans on the roster, nor is that what they do. That's never what they've done. We had a caller or two on Bill's show earlier. It's like, well, what if Aaron Jones becomes available? He could be a good backup for Josh Jacobs. That's just never been the way that the Packers operate, even if the guy's available for a veteran minimum. When the Packers decide you're old and over the hill, they don't even want you for free. Like when Jordy went to the Raiders, or when J.J. Watt was available. We hear about this after the fact a lot. It's like, Packers never even called. I would have played for the minimum. It's like, but the Packers aren't interested in you at the minimum, because once they decide you're old and they don't want you at your market rate, they don't want you at any rate. So I don't know that the Packers are going to add a bunch of veteran experience to the stable this offseason, because monetarily it would be difficult, not impossible, it'd be difficult, but also it's just not what they do. But I wonder, after the last couple of years and the way that it's played out and some of the themes that we've noticed, if that's not exactly what they need.
You need to have veteran players on your team to mother their peers in practice.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's a good point by Pete. Again, that's on Bart's podcast. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's that?
BVT, real quick. I'm going to whisper in Cooper Kupp, Seattle Seahawks, ring a bell?
Yes, sir.
That's all I got. I'm going to let you go, Grant. Thanks.
So, BVT, I appreciate it. That's the exact type of signing the Packers are averse to. Averse, I believe. I had a moment in college, by the way. Humor me. We took an exam. This is junior year. One of my harder classes. It was good, not like unfairly hard. It was a hard class. And the professor handed out the exam and was like, I just want you to know there are no trick questions. So if you're unsure at all about the way a question is worded or about what I'm asking, just come. I want to make sure you get the spirit of the question, because I'm not quizzing you on the language. I want you to the course material. So there was a question. The class was about media industries, the business, if you will, which I'll just leave it. Whatever. It was media industries. And the question was like, true or false, media executives are averse to risk. And I'm like, I think that means they're against it. But the professor made such a big point to, come up and clarify. So I went up and asked him, like, hey, man, I just, because you were so adamant, I thought I'd come ask. I just want to make sure. When you ask whether true or false, they're averse to risk, that means they're against risk, right? And the guy no-sells me. He's like, all I can say is there's no trick questions. It's like, well, no, that's clearly not all you can say, because you can answer my question. But it's back to my point. It's clear I haven't let that one go. The Packers are averse, BVT, to moves exactly like that, like Cooper Kupp for cheap. Had a little veteran presence in the room, great in practice, great on the board. That's the type of move the Packers don't like. And I think with good reason here and there, those guys get hurt, and but also like a couple of veterans. Again, I'll just play the Pete Bukowski clip again. I think it makes sense.
You need to have veteran players on your team to mother their peers in practice.
Badger Vibes Tracker BVT says, well, Cooper Kupp in Seattle. I'm with you. I think a player or an addition like that here and there goes a long way. But my point, which is why I'm thrilled you called in and used that example, that's the exact type of move the Packers don't make. A lot of teams would, and fans can look at it and say, well, you need a veteran to add in that room. Why not? Because they'd rather have Malik Heath, or because they'd rather have Savion Williams, or whoever, or Bo Melton, because that's what the Packers do. Wisco Sports Show, who's this?
Hey, Grant, this is Tim in Eau Claire.
Hey, what's up, Tim? Thanks for the call.
Hey, real quick, a take I had on this. Like, I like this big picture kind of concept you have of Packers being kind of far off yet.
Mm-hmm.
The point I want to make is that, like, it's two-sided, right? If we live in the era of caps, like a salary cap, and every team on any given Sundays kind of can beat you, And so the fact that LaFleur has made the playoffs and he's had a winning record, that's good in this day and age of close football games and things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the other side of that coin is, if you're going to be in close games, you had better be clutch, and you'd better be a fourth quarter person who can, end a football game.
Yep.
And if we're talking about anything right now, after 5 losses, 2 colossal collapses against the Chicago Bears. Colossal. If we're talking about anything besides going into this next season, other than, like, these guys might be torched, like, as far as, like, a team. I mean, the Chicago Bears are the opposite of what we're playing right now, which is, like, we're not clutch. There are people in this world, Grant, in sports, who are clutch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Michael Jordan, Shane Lowry yesterday collapsed. Out on the golf course, if you're a golf guy. Some people can just win tough games, and then there are people who just don't. And I just feel like Matt LaFleur is the type of guy who's just, man, he can't put those games away. So, like, you got to be able to win those close fourth quarter games, and they seem to struggle with that. So that's all I got.
Well, and I appreciate the call. Thanks for listening up in Eau Claire. The problem with that, and you're absolutely right, the problem with that is I think Matt LaFleur manages football games and manages a lead. He wants to be in those I shouldn't say he wants to be in those close games. He's comfortable being in those close games. We've talked about this. It's Matt LaFleur's idea. He manages a game, get me a lead, and then we're going to play no doubles defense. We're going to make you drive the field. We're going to make you execute. Like Matt LaFleur, when the Packers are up 10, his goal is we need to get up 17. We need to get up 21. We're up 10. Okay, let's be smart about it. He's the guy who's like, all right, we're up 10. Let's be smart about this. Let's do, and that's fine. You don't need to blow out every opponent. But if you are okay, if you're accepting of being in close games, you need to be better at winning them. And that was their biggest issue this last year. Brian Gutekunst spoke to exactly that at his press conference last week. Here, I'll get you the cut if you just give me a sec. Their biggest issue was closing out games in which they had a lead. And that's a real problem when Matt LaFleur's coaching strategy comes down to just get me a lead and then I'll manage it. Seems to be how he operates offensively, seems to be how he operates defensively, because his last couple defensive coordinators have all called exactly the same. That just seems to be the team's biggest issue, which sucks because they welcome that issue. Who's Goody? It's just a little loud here. The mic was a little close to him, so I'm going to turn it down just a bit. Goody talking about the team's inability to finish this season. Here you go.
I think, we've talked a lot about this, our ability to be more consistent in situational football and finishing off games. A number of our games the past couple of years, we've been up in the games and just not been able to close them out. And our group's we got to get to that point, So I think we're on our way there. I really like the guys in our locker room, and I like the makeup of our team. But that's an area that we have to fix.
I asked Mike Clemens last week directly. Do you think you're getting there? Do you think they're getting there? Because that's what Gutekunst, one more time, I want to hear
a number of our games the past couple of years, we've been up in the games and just not been able to close them out. And our group's we got to get to that point, So I think we're on our way there. I really like the guy.
Mike Clemens, do you think we're on our way there? He said, he hesitated. He didn't want to say, but he said no. And I agree. Hopefully they prove us wrong. Hopefully they prove me wrong. I don't want to speak for you. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Kevin on lacrosse.
Hey, Kevin, what's up?
Hey, I agree with everything that's just been said, and I want to go back to the fundamentals.
Yeah.
And executing the fundamentals, I don't know if it was on your show or Bill's show, but one of you said something like, okay, let's say there's 100 plays on the call sheet on offense, and that's fine, but you really should have 4 or 5 or pick a number, small number, that that in the right place in the right time, you're going to execute so well that you're going to keep doing it until the other team can stop you. And I go back to, I can't remember if that was Bill or you, but it doesn't matter. I go back to the old days. Vince Lombardi took the Packers over when they were a ragtag team of losers, and they had pretty much everybody on the roster, Bart Starr and all the other famous people except for Paul Hornung. He brought Paul Hornung in, and they ran the Packer sweep. And in practice, Vince Lombardi made those guys run that play every time until he thought it was as close to perfect as it could get. And most teams back in those early days, and we all know that the Packers won the very first 2 Super Bowls. That's why they call it the Vince Lombardi Trophy. Teams had a hard time stopping it. Can you think of a play that the Packers have today that teams have a hard time stopping? I can't think of one.
So no, you're absolutely correct. I appreciate the call. I think it was Bill. I think it was Bill that hinted at this. If you have 100 plays on the play sheet, you need a couple that you can go to, and you could, I won't speak to the play calling part of it, because I'm sure the Packers have a couple of plays where it's like, we know we can go to this in crunch time. But if they don't execute it in crunch time, like, you can be confident in the play, but if Rasheed Walker whiffs a block, or if, somebody slips out of their break, the issue, even bigger picture with the team, is those 3 or 4 plays a game that need to be made, they're like pretty consistently not getting made. The week that they did make them was Thanksgiving against the Lions. They made them. Dontavian Wicks going up and getting a ball a couple of times when it had to happen. Like that was the week. That was the outlier. That was the week that it didn't happen. Or that was the week that it did happen. Every other week it didn't. So play calls aside, it's more just an issue of a couple of plays every game. And NFL games are so close. That's what it comes down to. Let's take one more call here, and then I got to go to a break. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Greg from Appleton.
Hey, Greg. What's up?
So is that Peter Bukowski that said that about he swore and is like,
yes,
they need veteran players?
Yep.
It's a weak take. What do they do every year during free agency? They get free agents, right?
Yep.
A veteran free agents, veteran.
But those are like Aaron Banks. They weren't veterans. They weren't rookies. But I think he's talking about a guy who's been who's 30-year-old or like a Grizzly veteran, a stately veteran.
I kind of was going to lead into that, but yeah, I get it. But how many are there of those? There's Bobby Wagner, Calais Campbell, and if it's a matter of motivation, it's a matter of like, and if what a correlation. How about the players? What did they say about Matt LaFleur? He's a little too hard, or like what was this little study that came out last week?
He doesn't respect the players.
Doesn't respect the players. Come on. Like, and all of a sudden now it's a matter of motivation. If they need a 30-year-old player, you look at on the command spread. Look how many players we got that are like that. Bobby Wagner's a good one. Levin Fletcher was good for it. They're motivated. They're an older pair. They're like cemented in the league as like one of the greats. But there's not those players are few and far between. There's not many of them. Like Calais Campbell, yeah, great example. But then the factor of durability. Like, are they going to last? No. Bobby Wagner, great locker room guy, but in coverage, he was a liability in coverage.
Marshawn Lattimore, who they're releasing.
Exactly. Yeah. God, get rid of that guy. Jesus. $18 million saved. Thank God. Tyler Biadasz, Packers. I don't get that move either. That's just. I'm not kind of going off the beaten path here. But,
you wouldn't get. I haven't thought about that much because honestly, I know he's a good player at Wisconsin. I don't know how good he's been. I don't know how durable he's been. I haven't followed him that closely.
Real quick, don't hang on there. Real quick. So PFF. This is another thing. The PFF, all these grades on players. He was rated, I think, the 11th best center in football. Based on, and I don't know the PFF metrics or what they do, but somebody's rated the 11th best center in the league according to this PFF, and then he's released.
Yeah.
Like, how much validity does PFF actually have? Zero in my book.
So we don't need to get into PFF ratings because this conversation is done all the time. G-Dub, thank you. It was a nice chat. I look forward to chatting again soon. We weren't arguing about something for the first time in a while. I don't know how good Biadasz has been. I think the thought would be, well, first of all, and sorry I don't know this. I want to make sure that I have this right. He was released by Washington, right? Yeah. So Washington has to figure out a million things because they pushed picks for Deebo Samuel and because they traded for Wagner or traded for Lattimore, signed. Like they just got to get their books right. They got to clean things up. So maybe they thought, well, we like Biadasz, he's just fine, but we can get cheaper or we can figure things out. I think Biadasz, if you can get him at a fine number, I would take the 11th best center in football. They just need something stable. He's a center, which you can't say for Elton Jenkins, who showed little appetite to actually applying himself to do that position. And same with Sean Ryan, who did okay at times, not so great at others, but not a center. He's a guard. So I take Biadasz. It's not something that I really thought about or talked about or really even explored. So I'm not educated with how well he's been playing or anything like that. Let's talk Brewers for a couple of minutes when we get back, and then we'll do the Monday mailbag. GrantBills21@gmail.com. Last segment of the show.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Well, they become like the union's best friend. Like, hey, you don't, salary cap, is not needed considering what the Brewers do every year. It's like what Tampa Bay used to do in the American League, just, especially in that division, win year after year. And, the Brewers are showing everybody that, hey, we don't have to worry about going over the luxury tax threshold or anything like that. We just keep winning, NL Central titles. Last year, it was a, mismatch in the NLCS against the Dodgers. Granted, I think it might have been, a little stiffer competition if it wasn't such a grueling, emotional series against the Cubs. If they had won that thing in, 3 or 4 games, it might have been different. But I think they were riding such a emotional high over that. It's almost, you hate to say a letdown, but it sure seemed like it. I'm not even sure they led a single inning. you got the horses to get there, and that's what MLB's argument too is like, well, the Brewers haven't won a World Series. They got swept in that NLCS against a team with about $300 million more to spend. So it gives them obviously a better chance to win.
Bob Nightengale on Bill's show earlier today. He's got a good news story out today about the Brewers. USA Today. I'm going to poke at that here for a couple of minutes. First, I want to get this caller in quickly. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Well, things ain't always what they seem. Wake up, Grant. Mad Max from the tunnels of Racine.
Mad Max, good evening. What's going on with you? What's new?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to see if you heard the news. This might be some kind of distressing news to you, but over the weekend, the tunnels leaked an exclusive of about 2,000 members of Bohemian Grove.
Okay.
And those members included Conan O'Brien, Michael Bloomberg, Paul Pelosi, the Koch brothers, among others. But unfortunately, one of your personal heroes, Jimmy Buffett, was revealed to be a member of the cabal.
No, maybe, what other reasons, what reasons could someone have for going to Bohemian Grove? Didn't Nixon go there and be like, those people were nuts? Like, isn't Nixon famous for going and seeing it and being like, never again? Maybe that's what Buffett did.
I hope so. Yeah, Nixon actually had some very choice words.
Yeah, he did.
For them, some things I don't want to repeat on air. I talked about that with Tebow the other day too. But yeah, I'm just hopeful that he went there and he's just like, no, not for me. These people are weird, and then didn't associate any further. But
is there any tunnel connection to Bohemian Grove, or is that like almost a Racine Tunnels West Coast type thing?
Well, it's all connected. I mean, Racine's the root. Racine's the whole root of the cabal and the whole tunnel system. But there's tunnels under the entire country, basically, and it's all interconnected. But it's just that Racine is kind of the head of it, and Bohemian Grove is one of the main outposts as well. But really, it all comes back to Racine, and it's just a really good hidden secret. Speaking of the cabal, there's a blood moon overnight. I don't know if you saw. There's going to be a blood moon on 3/3, and it's going to be peaking at 3:33 in the morning on the West Coast as well. So that's a little scary. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but the cabal is going to be caballing. That's all I know.
Well, if you hear anything or you see anything, can I expect a report later this week about maybe what the blood moon brought for the cabal this week?
Yep, I will, and I'm gonna be calling in and talking about it on Over the Line tomorrow morning as well. I think Evo's gonna have some thoughts.
Excellent. You and Sasquatch Mike both. I'm gonna do some reading about Bohemian Grove tonight. Now you've given me an assignment. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you have time, just one quick take on the combine. So honestly, the combine to me is it's one of the worst sporting events of the year for me. I'm sure like for a Packers owner like you who's there in official business, it's worthwhile going and pretty interesting. But just for the average fan, it's just an example of the NFL has to force itself on us 24/7, 365. And I mean, this should be just an event that only the high level execs care about. And, and I just don't understand the appeal to the average fan on just watching guys do drills in tight shorts and somehow you're learning something new about these guys that you didn't know from watching them in college. It's just my opinion. The combine doesn't do anything for me, but you and Bill did a good job and you still gave me you gave me some reason to pay attention to it at least.
No, and that's fine, Mad Max. I don't inherently disagree with it. We're going to do this Brewers thing tomorrow because I just don't want to rush. We'll get into Bob Nightengale's story tomorrow. The comment. So there's two things at play here. The part of the combine that I find interesting is that all the general managers and coaches, not all the coaches, but all the GMs and a lot of the coaches speak. So they're answering questions about things, including, hey, might AJ Brown be available? Might Max Crosby be available? Those types of things. So it creates some headlines and creates fodder for shows like this. So if you like sports talk radio or you like sports podcasts, especially team-centric or league-centric podcasts, this week gives us a lot of content that's completely and totally disconnected from any of the testing that the players are doing. Now, if that's your bag, like you can go watch that. We went to Lucas Oil on Thursday or Wednesday, and watched for an hour. It was cool. But there were two or three sections of fans who bought tickets to come, and they had their jerseys on, and they're just watching what's basically a neutered track meet. Very boring. Now, cool to go to a stadium, and if you want to go to Indy and, like there's that thing, sure, yeah. But the combine, to me, provides us a lot of content and a lot of intrigue that's completely and totally unrelated to the actual players that are testing because all the teams are there. So we get headlines about, what's up with George Pickens, what's up with AJ Brown, What's up with Max Crosby? Why'd Rich Bisaccia leave in the middle of the night, weeks after the season was done? Those types of things. So the combine is more of like a tree shaking event to get us quotes and to get us, commentary and headlines on this, that, the other thing. The testing of the athletes, the who will enter the draft, that's secondary. And if you're a huge draft nerd, you get some numbers and some testing numbers. Although Benjamin Robinson, who was on Grinding the Mocks earlier with Bill, pointed out, like, these guys have gotten pretty good at optimizing their numbers because they'll only do the drills they're going to perform at. And some guys don't do the drills at all because they know they won't test well. So I'm not saying we have to take the numbers with a grain of salt, but we should probably take the numbers with a grain of salt. The Monday Mailbag, all topics and questions for your consideration, my consideration, rather, coming up next. GrantBills21@gmail.com. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
What tarnation? I think I played the wrong thing. That's okay. It's the Monday Mailbag. You know the point. Submit your questions, grantbills21@gmail.com, to make sure I fix the intro for next week. I know everyone looks forward to it so much. Hack radio sound. This email from Lance, this is a good starting point, says, everyone, the refrigerator door was found wide open this morning at approximately 5:45 a.m. As a result, all items of the refrigerator were reported to be warm. The freezer side remains frozen. This is from our HR director. I guess there was an incident in the break room. Not of any relation to you. I'll skip that. I'll come back to that after the show. Clumhead Mike says, it's grand to have you back. The best radio show on earth, just between you and the grandstands, is Skyline Chili is as great as Bill says. Wow, first day of reading school for me. I loved it. I thought Skyline was awesome. Yeah. The ordering? I still don't understand. The one way is chili. The 2-way is chili and noodles. The 3-way is chili, noodles, and onions. The 4-way is chili, noodles, and I just, can I get the chili and the noodles? Can I get the chili with the beef? Very complicated ordering. I got a 3-way or a 4-way dry. Bill's like, oh, you got to get him to drain the water out of it. It's not an item that sells itself, I'll just say. But it was outstanding. Will stop and will go again if I'm ever in the neck of the woods. It was very good. I'm not going to make a special trip for it. I did see that they sell it at Woodman's, but it's like $5.50 a can. Jeez. I know Phil Woodman's got to make a buck, and I know they got to import it up there from Cincinnati, but good Lord. Tyler and Mass. Compared to Olympic hockey, how do you view the upcoming World Baseball Classic that starts on Friday with a few exhibition games this week, like tomorrow's Brewers versus Great Britain? I'll watch. I like the World Baseball Classic. It's cool. I probably won't get into it as much as I did the Olympics because I don't really watch hockey that much other than the Olympics, and I watch baseball outside the World Baseball Classic. But the players get into it. 4 years ago when I was at spring training in the clubhouse, they're all over it. They're watching, they're following. So if they're buying in and they're taking it seriously, we will buy in and take it seriously. Amazing how that works, right? Bucks back tonight, by the way. Just bringing that up for no reason. Tony in Texas, have you ever milked a cow before? No, I have not. Thank you for the direct question. I have not. I've fed calves. I've helped with chores on a dairy farm. My hand has never directly wrapped and squeezed the udder of a cow. Preston says, how do you feel about the Packers signing Aaron Jones back this offseason if we don't keep Wilson? I feel like it would help in the passing game tremendously and give a few explosive runs here and there. Great show, Grant. This is what we were talking about, Preston. I think it would make sense for them to sign a veteran here and there. I think it would add a lot. I think it would be good. I think this team needs some veterans to kick some ass and take names in practice. I don't know that running back is the position to do it, and I don't expect the Packers to do it because that's never how they've operated. They're always, we want younger, we want cheaper. We want younger, we want cheaper. Even when the veteran is cheap, they don't necessarily want the veteran. Thomas in lacrosse. The birthday dude, Thomas, he signs it. I will humor this because it's your birthday, Thomas. So thank you so much for taking my call. 23 years old, crazy. Any life advice? And what do you remember from being 23 years old? Fun question. Well, there's like 6 questions in here. Best gift I got? I'm not sure. Best birthday from back in the day? I mean, I'm only 28, dude. Best advice for a 23-year-old? Well, first of all, don't ask me for advice on anything. Best advice for a 23-year-old. Go out and do dumb stuff. Kids don't go out and do dumb stuff anymore. Well, you get my point. You hear this brought up all the time now. Alcohol sales are way down. Bars are quieter. I'm not telling you need to go get boozed up, Thomas. Don't just walk through life all comfortable. I'm going to stay in tonight and watch my show. I'm going to stay in and take a gummy. I'm going to stay in and play video game. All those things are good. Go out into the world to new places with people you don't know and mix it up. Maybe do some things that in hindsight, I don't know if that was the best idea, but you know what? You did it because you're young and you didn't know better and you needed to learn. You needed to mature. That would be my advice for a 23-year-old. Go out and do things in the world. Don't just stay home and stream your shows. That being said, the show is wrapping up. It's time that I go home and continue my rewatch of Mad Men. I'm going to do laundry too. Chill. It's going to be a productive night. Tomorrow, we'll get into this Bob Nightengale story about the Brewers. It's pretty interesting, and we can have some conversations about what's going on in spring training. I saw Kurt Hogue arrive today, so I'm looking forward to his coverage. And the World Baseball Classic's coming up. And Giannis is returning tonight, so we can enjoy that, and we'll react to that tomorrow as well. Thank you for listening.